Hey everybody, today I'm going to be taking a deep dive into a legendary example of, well, let's just say ambition exceeding execution. That game I'll be talking about is Driver 3, or Drive 3R, as the game was awkwardly stylized. Let's get into it. Released in 2004, it promised a sprawling open world, a gripping narrative, and the ultimate driving experience. What we got was something else entirely. Let's dissect this glorious mess. If you haven't already, be sure to check out my other videos on Driver 1 and Driver 2, just to help you understand a little bit more of the history of the Driver series. Now, Driver 1 was a revolutionary title, a cinematic driving game that set the bar high. Driver 2 expanded on that, adding an open world and on-foot exploration. Expectations for Driver 3 were sky high, especially for me personally. Atari was clearly aiming for a GTA killer. They were hyping up the game's three cities, Miami, Nice, and Istanbul, and they promised a seamless blend of driving and shooting. They even brought in Michael Madsen to play Tanner, but did they deliver? Far from it in my eyes. Now let me get this out early. Driver 3 had some of the best visuals of the era. The style and the feel of it was perfectly fit for what they wanted to create going forward in the series. Sadly, all of that is lost once they put the controller in your hands and you see the game in motion. The game clearly looks more impressive than its predecessors did. The cutscenes look great, and they're shot quite nicely too. The character models are majorly upgraded this time around, fully rendered this time. But looks aren't everything, right? The character models and the cars show the passion the designers had. That's about where the passion stops. Now let's talk about the cities in Driver 3. The game boasted 3 massive cities, a huge selling point at the time for sure. But don't they say size doesn't matter? Anyway, the 3 cities in Driver 3 are Miami, Nice, and Istanbul. While visually impressive for their time, they definitely felt empty and definitely felt lifeless. The AI pedestrians were repetitive, the traffic patterns were bizarre, and where are the cars? There's barely any vehicles in the cities, like no matter what city you're in. The lack of detail and interactivity of other open world games is just missing. All the cities definitely felt like empty playgrounds more than they did a living city. The buildings in the game, especially in Miami, are all just 50 shades of gray. They look like you're in an underdeveloped mode in a half-baked game that was never finished. Moving to different cities later can add a little bit of color, but don't expect much more than gray and brown and more gray and brown. The level of detail was so inconsistent. Some areas looked great, others looked like rushed and unfinished. Okay, before going any further, let's talk about the controls in this game. The control scheme, it's going to take you a little bit of time to get used to if you're jumping back based on the way we have controls nowadays. I really don't know what they were thinking when they chose the control scheme for this game. Triangle is to pull your gun out. R1 is fire. Right trigger, R2 does nothing. Left trigger is down, and then you can roll forward like this. And then he immediately pops up. Immediately pops up. So that's real good. That's real good. Yeah, it's real helpful. L1 it gets you in and out of vehicles, which is real dumb. The fact that the L1 button is used for entering and exiting vehicles just totally blew my mind is ridiculous to me. It literally took me minutes to figure out how to get into a vehicle. Oftentimes this didn't even work for me. It was like the game completely forgot the inputs. And why the game never uses the R2 trigger for shooting is just inexplicable. The ability to remap controls would have made a huge difference for this game. Unfortunately, there is no option for that playing it on the PlayStation 2. Okay, now let's get into the shooting mechanics a little bit more. Tanner, this guy just handles firearms like he's swatting at flies. The manual aiming was impossible. Auto aiming did help, but still didn't work half the time or more. You don't have the ability to change your shooting hand, so be prepared to cross many doorways and take bullets every time so that you can get your targets in sight. Even trying to squat down into cover didn't help because you can't move while you're in cover, while you're squatting. But you can roll forward while you're in squatting and get killed every time, so try that. Now talking about a little bit in animation now, this will be the first time in a driver game that I feel like I need to discuss animation. And what I can say about it is wow. Just wow. It's bad. Starting with our lead character, Tanner has one of the most awkward jumps of any character I've ever seen. Does it remind you of anyone?
Look what I can do.
Then there's the side characters we have. They just don't move naturally, the walks aren't fluid, and they're missing frames, and sometimes full animations. They'll go from standing to laying on the ground immediately. Alright, let's talk about glitches. This is not a good sign, guys. I have a section dedicated to this video for glitches. And oh, there's glitches. Expect glitches that will break your experience and destroy your level of fun. In some cases, they can even make levels impossible or seem impossible to finish. Roads will toss you randomly for no reason, cars phasing through walls or streets, dropping from the sky, you name it. I ran into so many glitches in this game that it ruined my fun, and I'll tell you right now, guys, I didn't complete this game just because of that. It made the game unplayable in many, many cases for me. Alright, let's move on to a little bit more positive of what we have in Driver 3. The Take a Ride mode in Driver 3 essentially serves as the game's free roam or sandbox mode. It allows players to explore the game's 3 cities, which I mentioned earlier is Miami, Nice, and Istanbul, without the constraints of the story missions. Let me break them down for you. You have a free exploration option, which, players can just kind of free roam the open world environments, unlock cities, etc., etc. This allows for exploration of the city's layouts, finding, hidden areas, and simply driving around. The Take a Ride mode will offer time of day, traffic density, weather conditions, level of police presence, those kinds of things. And there's some vehicle variety as well. Players can access and drive a variety of vehicles, including motorcycles, cars, boats, just depending on the city you're in. There's secret hunting options as well if you want to play around with that, spend some time doing that instead of being frustrated during missions. But the mode is known for containing various secrets and collectibles, such as hidden vehicles and targets, parodies of Tommy Vercetti from the Grand Theft Auto Vice City series, things like that. The secret part, it does add a little bit to the gameplay mode. Nothing major. Using the Take a Ride mode and just playing around in it kind of turns into a practice mode in a way. Kind of allows you to kind of just play around in the world and get familiarized with the cities, so maybe it might make the single player missions a little bit easier, but don't count on it. But still, back to those glitches. Take a Ride is still riddled with glitches, and often becomes more of a playground for witnessing bizarre physics and graphical errors more than anything, which is a huge thing I've heard from the communities. People just loved it. They loved it for the quirkiness and the goofiness and the game brokenness. Don't ask me why. Alright, let's get into the story a little bit here. The story, it was aiming for kind of a gritty thriller, crime sort of vibe. That's at least what it felt like they were going for, and I'll tell you, it often fell flat. The dialogue was cheesy, the voice acting was not enthusiastic, and the plot was convoluted. Michael Madsen, yeah, he did what he does. He got paid to talk.
She wants me to put a hole in it, even things up before she thinks of using him again.
She uses him for repo work?
She has to. They're gonna ship 20, 30 cars to Europe.
I didn't get a sense of any actual acting from his portrayal of Tanner. The other characters we have, they kind of tried. They were probably better than Michael Madsen, in my opinion. We had Ving Rhames, who played our partner Jones. And then we also had Michelle Rodriguez from the Fast and the Furious series, who was playing another third kind of character. It just didn't come across the way I think they were going for. The story fell flat, but most of it just was a B movie trying to feel like an A-list blockbuster. It just didn't work for me. Now, Driver 3 was definitely met with some critical backlash. The review scores were low, and the gamers were vocal about their disappointment, myself being one of them at the time. The game became infamous for glitches and shortcomings. But despite its flaws, Driver 3 has become so bad it's good type classic kind of game. The glitches and jank, they've become kind of a source of amusement, and the game's sheer ambition is undeniable. But it's a reminder that even the most ambitious projects can go wrong, but they can still be entertaining in their own unique way. Now, I personally could not get past the point of this game where everything felt broken and I wasn't able to have fun. Driver 3 really fell flat for me, even 20 years later. I really thought I'd be able to get further in this game than I did. I did finish all the way through Miami, and I started playing in Nice, and the first 2 missions in Nice are not easy, and on top of not easy, they are filled with glitches. And when levels don't give you what you need to complete them, that to me is a broken experience that I don't want to be part of. And when you're required to get to a semi-truck with 3 vehicles in tow within 3 minutes roughly, and there's no cars or other vehicles to steal to get you to A, B, and C car, I'm going to be done. Can't do it. I don't have the level of patience to put up with that kind of gameplay development. And this game is not finished. That is my take on it. Even 20 years later, nothing's changed. So let's just cut to the chase. Was Driver 3 a failure for me? Yes. Commercially and critically, yes. But it's also a fascinating case study in game development. When you look back at it, it just goes to show that rushing a game out and trying to compete can only lead to failure. Driver 3 1,000,000% was trying to compete with GTA 3. They just couldn't do it. And they rushed out a messy game that gave them no hope of moving forward. So Driver 3 could be considered a testament to the challenge of creating an open world game, and it's a reminder that even the biggest flops can leave a lasting impact. A lot of people, they still love this game for the jank, the glitches, and the hilarity that ensues playing the game. I think that's amazing. That's great. I'm glad to see that they're still enjoying it and it still has a soft place in their heart. For me, it just didn't land like that. So my final thoughts, sadly, 20 years ago, my memories are the same as they are today. A broken mess of a game that destroyed the franchise in a way that I didn't think would ever recover from. This is not a game I think you should pick up and play. It's tough. It's broken. It's buggy. It's glitchy. There's not a whole lot I can say that's good about this game. Driver 3 was a major letdown for me when it launched, and it's still a letdown for me trying to get through it again. I'll be moving forward in the Driver series now with a completely new frame of mind to just see where the series can go. Will it surprise me? We'll find out as the series continues. For now, you guys let me know in the comments, what are your memories of Driver 3? And what do you think of it now, 20 years later? I want to talk about that and more down in the comments. And if you like the video, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I'll be putting out more of the retrospective videos as time goes by. So stay tuned for those. And until the next time, remember, grab a controller and play it loud.